Advice is something that you've probably been hearing your whole lives. Some of that advice may have been good, or it could have been bad. Advice can come from anywhere, from anyone or anywhere. It can come from loved ones, friends, mentors, or even strangers. Some advice can come from the internet, such as news, online posts, or even memes. Although advice is supposed to help you in a way, I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't believe everything you see. The most recent advice that we're all probably given was to make sure that we prepare for our speeches the best as we could, which is exactly what we did, right? You may think that I practiced the speech since it was assigned because of how good it is, but trust me, this is all from the night before. This is an example of good advice that I probably should have taken, but that's the thing about advice. Sometimes you don't know if it's good or bad until you actually follow it. You can choose to take and follow the advice, or you can simply ignore it. Either way, it's a risk because whatever happens can work out in your favor, or it can work against you. So when should you listen to advice? When someone you know or trust gives you advice, it will most likely be good advice. However, you might want to be careful because your friends could be messing with you by giving you horrible advice. Has anyone ever told you that you guys should vaccinate your kids in the future? Well, don't listen to him, at least not at first. You don't know where he got his information or if he's really as informed as he says he is. I bet he told you that vaccines can lead to autism. How do you know he didn't just make that up to further his agenda? It's always a good idea to really think about or research what you're being told, because not everything you hear is necessarily the truth. One of the worst pieces of advice that I was ever given was actually given to me very recent. I was told to take RCS 100. It'll be fun, they said. You'll love it and you'll learn a lot. Boy, they couldn't have been any more wrong, am I right? No, I'm just kidding. I've learned a lot from this class. I've actually learned that I'm not as funny as I'm not as funny as I thought I was. So thank you for that. The advice that I just talked about are words that come from other people directly, but what about what you see on the internet? We've all heard the saying, not everything you see on the internet is true. When I first heard that, I was like, so you're telling me an Egyptian prince didn't actually need my credit card information? I couldn't believe it. Although most of the information you see online is reliable, it is always best to see if there's credibility behind it. This is because some information may seem real, but it isn't. One example is, let's say a post were to say something like, if you stack 2 pizzas on top of each other, your stomach will think that it's just one piece, which means that you don't gain as much weight. If you didn't know any better, you might believe this because it kind of makes sense. This is an example that is not that harmful, but you might hate the person who posted it when you gained 20 pounds in about 2 months. An example of advice that could be dangerous if it is followed is if a post were to say something like, if your car engine overheats and catches fire, you should speed up so the wind will put out the flames. This might seem like a good idea at first, but until you really think about it. You might be thinking, no one would ever follow this advice because nobody is that dumb. But there are people who follow the advice without question. The moral of the speech is that you should not believe every piece of advice that you see or hear, because it may not be trustworthy. Thank you for listening.